This is the Retirement Key Podcast with Joshua Barbin, certified financial planner of Abish Financial Services.
Welcome back to another episode of the Retirement Key. I'm Casey, and I am here with certified financial planner Joshua Barbin, JB of Abish Financial Services in Washington, D.C. Remember, if you are listening, you can connect with us anytime. TheRetirementKey.com is where to find us, or all the info you need. It is always posted in our show notes for you. So, JB, let's get into it today. A huge part of most people's retirement plan is Social Security. So I thought we could do a little Social Security 101 today. Does that sound good?
It sounds excellent. I love it.
All right. Well, to start, can you just give us a brief overview of what Social Security is and how it works? I think it's a term a lot of people are familiar with, but maybe they might not actually know what it means at the end of the day.
The acronym is OASDI, Old Age Survivor and Disability Insurance, and it started a long time ago in the 30s. It was a program basically just to provide some insurance for people who didn't have any money during the Great Depression. I mean, that was the origin of it. But
Okay.
It's become a major part of people's retirement income and planning in today's world. It's something that's really interesting to think about, Casey. It's very common for a client of Abish Financial to have a Social Security benefit when they're 67 to 70 years old. That's about $4,000. And that can be above or below, but that's common, right? These benefits that are paid out by the government, this insurance program that we all paid into during our lifetimes, I know, when we get a paycheck, you see that 6.25% that goes out, that's what goes to Social Security, which is, it's actually kind of like an annuity. Like you're paying in deposits over time, this 6.25% every paycheck, every year. Sometimes that's 40 years of a working career, and you're building up a balance, so to speak, with the Social Security trust. And that can lead to a $4,000 to $5,000 income per month for some of the retirees that we work with, if you're a somewhat higher earner. So if you take those benefits and you look at them on a kind of how much they're worth, depending, like a lot of people will retire and they'll live 25 years after they on Social Security. We're talking roughly like in some cases, $1 to $1.5 million asset for some of these larger Social Security benefits. So, you might have a $1 to $2 million portfolio, maybe even $3 million. If you add that piece on there, and sometimes, Casey, we have actually two people with $4,000 benefits. So these can be $1 to $3 million of benefits that people have on their balance sheet, if you want to look at it that way. So these are hugely important assets that we're talking about here, if you want to think about it as assets or income streams, however you want to talk about it. But and there's so much to think about and plan around when you're thinking about this.
Yeah, it's definitely a huge piece of the retirement puzzle. And there's always a lot of chatter around Social Security, too. It is a program that we see in the news a lot. So what do you think are some of the most common misconceptions that are out there right now about Social Security? What are you hearing?
Probably the most common misconception I would hear is that I should file it early because I'll make more. And that is generally wrong thinking. Not that, there's some validity to that thinking, because if you file at 62, you're being paid when you're younger. And there could be an argument made that it's just better to have money when you're in your 60s than when you're in your 70s. That is a fair argument, but you won't make more in most cases if you file early. You'll make more if you file later, with one caveat, Casey, that you have to live past 82 years old. Now, there's some people that won't live that long, and that's a big consideration on that longevity piece. I mean, some people that tell me, there's not a single person in my family that lives past 70 years old.
Oh, no.
Like, okay, just go ahead and file.
A little doom and gloom.
Yeah. But and then there's others say, there's not a single person in my family that doesn't live to the 90s. But then you might want to wait, because you're going to make a lot more money if you wait. So that's a big misconception. Sometimes people think, too, that they could file early at 62 and then reinvest it and outperform Social Security. In any given year in the stock market or something, you can earn more than Social Security. You can. But in any given 10-year period, you won't, or 8-year period, or whatever it is. You will not most likely earn more than Social Security. Here's why. Because from age 62 until 67 for most people, you're going to earn 6% per year guaranteed. But here's the catch. It also has an inflation adjustment, which is inflation runs right now at like 2.9%. But yeah, let's even just say 2. that puts you at a guaranteed 8% return. For you to, once you're 67 to 70, it's actually a guaranteed 8% return plus an inflation adjustment, so more like 10% guaranteed. There's
Okay.
not a single investment manager on this earth who can guarantee you 8 to 10% returns for the next 7 years or 8 years. It's just not, we can get that. We can have a good market and get that, but they cannot guarantee you that. And there's no product that can guarantee this. So it's a powerful tool, but there's a lot of considerations around how you use that.
Okay. And what about chatter that Social Security might run out one day? What are your thoughts there?
Maybe for you and me. I would say it's much more likely that we pay into it and they get to use it, but the older group. But I'm not concerned personally that Social Security would run out for anybody in the older generation, like anybody who's retiring right now. I think you will be taken care of. There are some potential, like way down the line, underfunding of Social Security by like 2038. They may take some measures to make the trust a little stronger, but as of right now, I don't think anybody who's currently receiving their benefits should expect that they'll have a reduced benefit or not be able to be paid.
All right. Well, now I know this is going to be a loaded question because there are a lot of different factors to consider here, but touched on it a little bit. At what age can people start claiming Social Security? How does someone's age impact their benefits? Go into a little more detail on that for me.
So unless you're a qualifying widow, there are some other scenarios where your husband or wife may have passed away, where some unique filing scenarios, including for even children, could file. And sometimes those actually go miss. So if you find yourself in that kind of situation, please reach out or go to theretirementkey.com because you might not be getting what you can. Other than that, though, in the more vanilla scenario, it's 62 years old is the earliest age that you can file, and 70 is the latest age that you can file. And like I said, each year between 62 and 67, 6% more, and then 67 to 70, 8% more. That's the general ladder of how it works.
All right. Now, when you're helping your clients, what are some strategies that you're suggesting to them to help them maximize their Social Security benefits?
Yeah, I just met with somebody the other day who was curious about this question. Should I lean a little bit heavier on the portfolio for about 2 to 3 years? I'm about 67 years old, this gentleman was, and he was kind of asking me, should I lean a little bit heavier on the portfolio for the first 2 to 3 years so I can defer my Social Security? Again, you got to go through that whole gambit of like, how long do you expect to live? I mean, that's probably one of the big questions in Social Security planning. But then you take a step back and say, okay, if you want to do this type of planning, which probably will result in higher returns over the next few years, how do you manage these higher outflows from the portfolio? Are you going to be able to handle, if we need to turn up the rate of withdrawal from the portfolio, can it handle it? Some people would find themselves in a different scenario where they're retiring, they want to retire right around 62. They've got enough money to retire, but the social just fits really nicely at that point. And yes, I know I'm taking a lower benefit. I understand that I'm kind of locking myself into a lower benefit over the next 20, 30 years, but it just, I don't really have a pension. I don't really have another secure income source. And this just builds a really nice base that I can build a retirement plan on. So sometimes you file at 62 out of necessity almost.
Right. Now, I've always got to ask you how taxes come into play pretty much no matter what subject we are discussing. So are your Social Security benefits taxable?
Well, it depends how you want to look at it. Are you a glass half full or glass half empty type person? I'm a bit of an optimist by nature. So,
let's go with that then. Let's keep it upbeat.
Yeah, we'll keep it upbeat. And basically that means, like, the way that you frame it then is Social Security is 15% tax-free. And the glass half empty is 85% taxable. Now, that's up for debate. We can talk about that in a minute because there's some real legislation that is being proposed to make that 100% tax-free. It actually was tax-free. I don't remember the exact year. Apologies there. But up to a certain point in American history, it was completely tax-free. They changed that. And now proposals are on the table to make it all tax-free again, which, Casey, I can't even begin to stress how much money would open up in the United States if that happened. I mean, just from our clients, we're a nice medium-sized firm here in Ashburn. We deal with a lot of clients, and I know from the people that we work with how much money would be available and would have to find a home that is currently, being paid in taxes. So imagine this across the country, all the retirees across the country who are receiving benefit checks, who are used to living on this standard of living and now have opened up an extra 85% that they were paying in taxes now available. Where's that money going to go?
Yeah.
And we might be talking about huge money going into the stock markets and other places like that. So it's an exciting proposal. We don't know what's going to happen yet.
Yeah.
It has to go through all the DC lawmaking process, but that's a possibility. Right. Now, let's deal with the base level, what we're dealing with today. It's still 15% tax-free. Remember that guy said he was deciding, should I use my portfolio and defer the Social Security? Well, that's another advantage of the Social Security, that it's actually tax-free for 15%. So it's got a kind of a head start against the portfolio, which is going to be usually 100% taxable. So again, yes, it's about 15% tax-free, which is a huge benefit, could be even more tax-free in the future. Now, if you're in that position where you're thinking about deferring or not, or maybe locking in your benefits, that potential that is 100% tax-free, well, making that benefit larger could be a hugely impactful decision. Like if I decided to file at 67 today and lock in $3,500, or wait till 70 and get $5,000 or $4,800, that $4,800 could be tax-free for the rest of my life. That's a big difference. That could be a big difference.
Yeah.
And that's one of those kind of situations where you reach out to us and help us to navigate that question together.
Absolutely. All right. Well, JB, if you could leave our listener with one piece of advice about Social Security as it pertains to planning for their retirement, what would it be? Good luck answering that.
Oh, I would think I would say get advice on, don't necessarily tackle it yourself.
Right.
Some people are very, it's only 70. That's the best way to do it. It's only 62. I know that's what I want to do. I'm going to get I think every situation with Social Security is just so unique, Casey, that it's really hard to blanket, as crazy as it seems, because it's very kind of mechanical. You file at 62, you file at 70, but in reality, it's never mechanical. This conversation is never just black and white. It's always got a lot of nuance and color. And so I think that number one thing you should do is, and this is something you can do with Abish, sign up, come in, have a where do I stand plan, and we'll talk about Social Security with you. And I think that's the best thing you can do, is to talk to and get advice, get help.
Sure.
Don't just assume that it's one way. And I think that's a good play.
All right. Well, this has been fantastic information. Social Security, it's a huge part of retirement planning. So all retirees, future retirees, you got to be in the know about this stuff. So JB, to our listener tuned in today who may be ready to get that retirement conversation started, they are looking for some guidance. What should they do? How can they get in touch with you?
I'd say the first way to do it would be to go to theretirementkey.com, and they can help you there and get set up and get in the office and meet with us. And I think that's the best thing you can do.
Absolutely. Well, once again, that is theretirementkey.com for all the info you need to get in touch with JB and the team at Abish Financial Services. Thank you so much for joining us today. Make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode, and we will see you next time. Thanks, JB.
Thanks, Casey. See you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Retirement Key Podcast. To learn more about Abish Financial Services, visit theretirementkey.com. Abish Financial Wealth Management is a registered investment advisor with the SEC. Registration as an investment advisor does not imply a certain level of skill or training, and the content of this communication has not been approved or verified by the United States Securities and Exchange Commission or by any state securities authority. The information contained in this material is intended to provide general information about Abish Financial Wealth Management and its services. It is not intended to offer investment advice. Investment advice will only be given after a client engages our services by executing the appropriate investment services agreement. Information regarding investment products and services are provided solely to read about our investment philosophy and our strategies.